And actually do some practical hands-on bits and pieces. What we've got for the remainder of the session is a couple of exercises in giving feedback on grant applications. And I know from my perspective, where this is a job I've been doing for a while, the process of actually giving feedback is actually very good in terms of your own writing, because things come into sharp. It's the same reason why feedback is good for students as well. Things come into sharp relief that in your own writing you see when you see someone else write. You say, oh, well, I do that, I don't do that. So I think there's a virtuous circle involved with giving feedback. It's good for the person you're giving feedback to, provided you're giving the right kind of feedback in the right kind of way, and of course we'll all be doing that. But it's also good for yourself as a writer. It's good for yourself in terms of your own personal development as a researcher, to be able to put yourself in the shoes of an assessor and think about what are the things, why do assessors say the things they do. You get very frustrated, the assessors say this, this and this, and you often get a 2-line piece of feedback. If you put yourself in the assessor's shoes, it can often become clear why, even if you don't agree with them, why they said the things they've said. So the first exercise is going to involve what we're calling the dummy grant application, and this is a fictional one, and it's a bit of a Frankenstein's monster constructed out of various bits and pieces of grant applications we've seen over the years that has a bit of almost everything wrong with it. However, hopefully there is at the core of it the foundation of what is a good idea. It's going to take some teasing out, and my job in supporting grant applications, it is often that kind of teasing process of just finding that one thing, finding that thing at the core, and turning this sort of the ugly duckling into hopefully not an ugly duck, hopefully a swan, or a non-ugly duck. It don't matter. The second exercise will involve some disidentified actual grant applications that people have generously shared with us. That will give you a more realistic, I guess, expectation of the sorts of grants that do get knocked back, and it may be a bit surprising to see that there's not necessarily anything obviously wrong with these ones. It's not like the first one where you get, oh, well, that's wrong, well, that's wrong. These ones are ones that you might go, well, I would have given them money. So that'll be an interesting exercise in itself, I think. And also, with the first one, there's no real people involved, so you can be as mean as you like with your feedback because it's all fictional. Whereas with the second one, we're going to practice our positive feedback. Okay, so you'll have about half an hour to have a look at these in your table, in your group. And what we would like, obviously you're going to have a lot of feedback and a lot of things to say. What we'd like is your top 5 tips. And then when we come back together at 12:15, I'll type some of these up and we'll start getting a list together and seeing which ones are in common and which ones the different groups say have come up with. So just the top 5, not necessarily this is wrong with this particular grant, but these are some advice I would give if someone came to me and said, what do you think are the most important things when putting one of these together? Okay, what are the top 5 tips? Make sense? Excellent. So I'll give you a little bit of a warning when it's about time to wind up, and then we'll come together as a big group and share what we've found out. Oh, you also have the OLT help sheet, which came online this year. You may or may not have seen it, but it has further advice